Through the SwissMango website, when I'm logged in, I can go on the left-hand side and manage my newsletters. I select Newsletter Management, and it brings me into my Newsletter Management panel. This page allows for me to not only manage my newsletters, but my recipients, my senders, and my statistics as well. So let's start on the right here with our statistics. Each newsletter that is sent out has statistics associated with them. For example, the coffee newsletter that I sent in July at 4:45 p.m., I sent it to 3 recipients. Those recipients viewed it, all 3 of them viewed it, and then out of the 8 links that I had available, 2 of the recipients clicked on them. So if I dig a little deeper into my newsletter, I'm actually able to see the interaction from the individuals who received the newsletter. For example, Linda viewed it 3 times and did not click on any of the links, whereas Christian viewed it 12 times and clicked on one of the links. Also, if we take a look at our statistics regarding our recipients, it lists all of our recipients that have ever received a newsletter, and it shows you how many groups they're involved in, how many newsletters they've received, how many views they've had, how many links, and how many clicks. So for example, Christian is a part of 4 groups, has received 2 newsletters, has viewed both of those newsletters, and has clicked on 4 out of the 16 links available. I'm also able to adjust my senders. Typically with SwissMango, we leave your email as noreply@swissmango.com. This is based on the fact that we do not want people responding back to your e-newsletter. Generally, your e-newsletter is there to push information out and then pull them back to the website to interact. Generally, you want your interaction on the e-newsletter. You do not want them emailing you back. But if for some reason you would like to add additional senders, you can do so by selecting Add Sender. This is where you can designate the name of the person as well as the email address available, whether or not it is active, and then you hit Submit. For right now, I'm going to leave it as noreply@swissmango.com because I do not want to have anybody responding back to me. I'm also able to take a look at my recipients. This is all of the recipients I have ever received, and I have them organized into groups because when I'm sending a newsletter, I'm sending them to a specific group, not individual contacts. So it's always important that I come in and I manage my groups. If I'm creating a new group, for example, I created a special form that I want all of those people who submit the form to come into this group, I would select Add and I would give it Special Form Submitters. And I can give it a description. Everyone who is in this group has submitted their information through the special form that I created. And then I hit Submit. So now I have my group available, and based on the settings that I put into my special form that I created, as they submit their form, they are added into this group. They're also added into my contacts, and my contacts is really just a huge, large list of all the different contacts that are available that you have added into your system. I also have this import option available, but before I go there, I'm going to search through my contact list one of the recipients. For example, there's Leisha Lindenberger, whose email address is here. If I search for her and she's not available, I can always click Add to add my contact right here. I can also search by last name. For example, the last name starting with L, which would be Leisha, but if she wasn't there, let's take a look at adding her information. I would type in her first name, her last name, the email address, the phone number, and the company. I would designate this person as subscribed because I know that I want this person to be subscribed and they also want to be subscribed as well, and then I would hit submit. Although Leisha is already in the system, I would only hit submit if her information was not. I'm not going to hit submit, but I am going to go and take a look at my import option. What's great about this import option is you're able to import an Excel file that you may have already existing. Now, down at the bottom, there are directions on how to import your Excel file. You first have to organize them by last name, first name, email address, phone number, and company name. This is how the system will accept the information and it will process it properly. Now, if the first row has column headers, such as the example here where it says last name, first name, email address, phone number, and company name, then you want to select the Ignore First Row option. If you do not have a first row that you need to ignore, you select No. You browse for your file, which will bring you to your computer where you can designate the Excel file that you want to use. You can also manage duplicates. For example, if somebody already exists in your system and they are also in your Excel file, you need to know what to do. The system needs to know what to do with that information. So, should you overwrite the information that's already in the system, or should you keep the information that already exists in the system? You have those two options available here. Now, as you're importing your contacts, you can add them to a group. For example, if there are a bunch of board of directors that I need to add in, I select my board of directors and I import that information by clicking Import. I can also export all of the contacts that I have in my SwissMango newsletter platform by selecting Export. I can choose the file format. I only want to export those who are already subscribed, and then I can choose my contact group. I can choose all of the contact groups, or I can only export my board of directors, for example, and then I select Export and it creates that file for me. Now, if I send out an e-newsletter and I want to make sure that everyone received it, I can always come to my undeliverable section here, where if there's an e-newsletter that goes out and the information was incorrect, it will get kicked back and collected in this undeliverable tab. Right now there are no contacts found because all the contacts I have in the system are correct, but if anybody was incorrect they would come in here, and quite often it's generally the email that has an issue where there's an extra space or there's the M missing out of .com, something like that. So now we actually need to take a look at our newsletters. Here we have our actual newsletter list, where we're managing all the different newsletters that are available. After I send out an e-newsletter, it goes into my archive, where all of the different options that I've created are here, and then I'm able to click further to see how many within that category exist, and I can even preview them as well. Now, when I look back at my Manage area, what happens is I can have a sample set up where I can make adjustments, send it out, and then it goes into my archive, and then the next time I want to send that newsletter out, I just keep that same one here, I make some adjustments, and then that goes into my archive. So I can always operate out of the same newsletter over and over again. So let's take a look. I have 5 different options available here. I have my coffee newsletter example. Here's my Elliott Museum Capital Campaign sample. I have a full column. I have a fundraiser drive, and I have a newsletter example. Again, these are all different newsletters that I'm operating off of right now. When I look under the template, I'm able to see that some of them are 2-column where the spotlight is on the left, 2-column where the spotlight is on the right, and there's one of them with 1 column where there is no spotlight whatsoever. And then I'm able to see when the next scheduled delivery is set to go out. Right now I don't have anything scheduled, but if one of them were to be scheduled, the date and time would appear here. So let's take a look at our icons on the right hand side. I have my edit newsletter parameters. So this allows me to edit my newsletter parameters. I'm able to manage my attachments. If I want to put an attachment, just like on a regular email where there's an attachment such as a PDF or a Word document, I'm able to do the same thing with my e-newsletter. Here's where I manage my recipients. I'm also able to manage my schedules. I'm able to build. I'm able to preview. And I'm able to get a view settings as well as delete. So let's go ahead and add a new newsletter in for example purposes. I'm going to give it a subject line of test. I'm going to choose my sender. Right now I only have one sender to choose from, so I'm going to select no reply. And then I have a template to choose from. Again, here's where the 1 column, the 2 column with the spotlight on the right, and a 2 column with a spotlight on the left. Let's take a look at what the 2 column spotlight on the right looks like. I can also send this out with a different priority, whether it's a high priority, a normal priority, or a low priority. Quite often I want to keep it as normal, but sometimes something may be urgent, so I can send it out as a high priority, or if it's not that urgent, I can send it out as a low priority. And you can also choose to have a read receipt. It is natively selected to say no, but if you're only sending out to a few people, you may want to get a read receipt to make sure that they got it. If you're sending out to a lot of people, say 300 recipients, you may not want to get a read receipt because that would be 300 read receipts coming into your email. So let's go ahead and hit submit. Now I've just created my template for my newsletter, and now I need to do a couple settings. So here's my test down at the bottom, and if I ever want to make any adjustments to what I just created, I can always do that here by selecting Edit Newsletter. Now I can manage my attachments as well. I'm able to select Manage Attachments, and I'm able to choose from my resource library what the newsletter is or the attachment is that I want to do. I select Add, I browse my resource library, and I choose the attachment that I want to attach. I double click and then I hit submit. Now I can exit out of my attachments. I can also choose to manage my recipients. This is where I'm able to choose which groups I want to send this e-newsletter to. I'm able to send to multiple groups, and I can also select this checkbox at the top where I can select all of my recipients groups. I'm going to unclick that and just select a few of them, and then I hit submit. I'm also able to schedule my newsletter when I would like for it to go out. So I select Add, and I'm able to click a drop down where I choose the date and time in which it will go out. So I want this to go out on the 30th at 3 p.m. and then I click Done and then hit Submit. And now I can exit out of my Manage Newsletter Schedules. So now it's time to actually get in and build my newsletter, and I do so by selecting Build. Just as we have with our other websites, our banner at the top is branded for your organization. We bring that same banner, that same look and feel into your newsletter as well. So then I have the same features as I have before, where I can add a text block, an image block, a document block, a news block, and an event block. And in my Spotlight, I can do the same, where I add text, image, links, news, and events. I'm also able to preview my newsletter. While I'm in preview mode, I'm actually able to select Send Now if I wanted to go out at this very moment. I can edit the newsletter, manage my attachments, manage my recipients, as well as manage my schedules. And let's take a look at our view settings. Our view settings give us a nice overview about everything that is set up with this e-newsletter. So I'm able to select see what the subject is, who the sender is, what the template is, the priority, the read receipt, the attachment, as well as the groups in which we'll be receiving this e-newsletter, and then the schedule in which it is planned to go out. I can always return to my newsletter list, and directly from my newsletter list I can actually select the preview option as well. So this is an overview of how to build and set up your e-newsletter. If you need specific instructions on how to add text blocks, images, events, or news, you can do so by selecting the appropriate training video.